It's Lucy Litch, and this is Tiny House Conversations. It's the Australian-based podcast where I interview experienced tiny houses, tiny builders, and adventurers in the tiny world so you can discover how to create, build, and transition into tiny life. Hey, it's Lucy, and I've got some great news for you. You've been asking me for months, Lucy, when are you doing season 2 of the podcast? Well, Tiny House Conversations will be back this March, and I'm so excited to bring it to you. You know, after taking a good chunk of last year off to simply live and be present in my first year of tiny life, it felt really important for me to take space and be immersed in it for myself without worrying about capturing everything on camera, to share on the show as well as on social media. And now that I've well and truly settled into this lifestyle, I feel really inspired and called to share more of my experiences and journey with you this year on the podcast, as well as on other social channels. And a side note, this may or may not include a new tiny house, but that's another story or another episode for another time. And there's a little teaser for you. There's some big life changes on the horizon in Tinyland for me this year. And part of that means I'll be back behind the mic, bringing you more awesome tiny house conversations. You'll get to hear from more tiny house builders, as many joining the tiny house space week after week, month after month. Some of your familiar favourites in the Aussie tiny house space, some new and old favourite tiny houses, other experts, and of course yours truly sharing more about what's happening in my own tiny life. And all of this is so that you can soak up all that tiny goodness, insights, tips, stories, experiences, mistakes, mishaps, and more to help you along the way on your own tiny path. So if you're a tiny houser, a tiny builder, or other business with relevant experiences, products, services that align with the tiny house lifestyle and will be of interest and value to the tiny house community, and you'd love to join me on the show, I'd love to hear from you. So you can DM me on Instagram or Facebook at Tiny House Conversations. You can also send me an email, tinyhouseconversations@gmail.com, or head over to tinyhouseconversations.com/story and share your details there. Now stay tuned for some more exciting announcements about where my tiny journey is headed next so I can take you along for the ride. If you haven't already, make sure you come and say hi over on Facebook or Instagram at Tiny House Conversations. Now, I can't wait to be back with you for season 2 later in March. Wherever you are on your tiny house journey, this podcast is for you. Thanks again for listening. And if you enjoyed the conversation today, you found it valuable, and you want to support the podcast, the best way you can do that is to share the love. That way I can keep bringing you more tiny house conversations to help you on your own tiny journey. So here are 3 ways that you can support the podcast. Number 1, if you have a friend or family member that you feel would benefit from hearing these conversations, feel free to share it with them, email them, text them, send them a telegram, do whatever you need to do to share it with them. Number 2, if you hit the subscribe button, you'll know exactly when the next episode is live. And number 3, if you head on over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to podcasts and leave a 5-star rating and review. Thank you so much in advance. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next episode.